The third game in the Dark Pictures Anthology, House of Ash, is now out for PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Series X and S, and PC. It's the first one native on the new-gen consoles. Not going to be the last, though. This is the third game out of 4 for Chapter 1 out of a total planned 8 of Dark Pictures Anthology. And coming in with that new-gen hotness, you got a lot of graphical improvements. Let's talk a little bit about graphics first up.
The graphics. Well, I got to say, probably one of the best-looking ones so far. Of course, this is on the 5. I don't know if they've used any new engine. Probably not, but it looks very well done. Rocks look exceptional. That's how I base a lot of games off now, is how good do their rocks look.
For sure.
The rocks in this look pretty damn good. You probably had more good experiences, and I'll let you share those before I get into my bad ones.
Yeah, graphically, I just think it looked great. It was definitely an improvement over Little Hope and Man of Medan. Specifically, there were a couple scenes. Obviously, when you're playing through, you guys are experiencing different scenes. Even though you're playing co-op, you're in different areas, different characters. And I had a scene where I was in a large body of liquid holding a torch, and there were small fires around you that I thought it was just absolutely gorgeous. It's real atmospheric. The lighting is done really well for the most part. I mean, I did have a couple sections where I was playing as the Afghani soldier who only had a lighter, and I know it's atmospheric, but man, all it did was piss me off that I couldn't see anything, and I was just looking at my feet and hoping I wasn't going to run into a big scary monster.
Now, to get over to some of the bad things, you experienced none, but I had some texture issues. I wouldn't say throughout the entire game, but I had a lot on the front end, a little bit toward the end. Just some textures just wouldn't load. I had multiple bodies of the same character pop up on screen for me. We both had the issue of one of these premonition tablets we could not pick up. It was highlighted, nothing we could do about it, so we did miss one of those. I'm sure they'll be releasing patches later down the road to correct some of these issues, but and maybe it was just me, but did experience a few little things. It doesn't still take away from the game, but it just felt like I never had these issues with the other games. Of course, they've been out for some time, and you just expect a little level of polish that wasn't quite there.
Yeah, this is the first one in the series that we're playing right out the gate. You know, Man of Medan I picked up, and they already had a Friends Pass implemented, which is how I got you roped into it. Same for Little Hope. I bought it and then brought you in about 4 or 5 months after release, so it's possible they had those on release, and we just missed out because we came in 4 or 5 months later. Graphically, bug-wise, I think I saw a little bit of a door issue when you were having the same door issue on your gameplay, but I was a character across the room, so I barely saw it. It was pretty good. The only graphical complaints I had, I think most of the character models are really detailed and done really well, but man, did they do Ashley Tisdale dirty. I think in real life she's gorgeous. In this game, she was off. I don't know what it was, but she was off.
I had to do a double take. I said, who is this? Who is this now?
Yeah, recognize the voice, and then you see kind of a faint face, like somebody tried to do a watercolor painting at a street fair or something, and kind of got some of the details right, but it just ain't right, and I don't know what it is. It threw me off. And past that, though, graphically, I liked it. It made for a memorable experience with all the lighting and the atmosphere that they did. They did a really great job of it. You have, moving into gameplay, you have a little bit of new camera movements, new flashlights, and I'll leave you to talk about the new camera.
Yeah, so the game is no longer fixed. The past games have been kind of like that Resident Evil style you're all used to. Now it's got a 360-degree camera that the player controls. Each character also is equipped with a flashlight or maybe a high lumen lighter.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if high lumen is the right word.
But just helps to illuminate the dark because there's a lot of darkness in this game, and they can help discover new paths. You got to really kind of look at all the nooks and crannies this game's got, and it does just add to that atmospheric level of it, of being underground and these scary caves that you're in.
Yeah, and it does add a lot to the gameplay. And while we're talking about gameplay, if you're not familiar with the series, or even if you are, obviously there's a spider web of choices. When you're playing through a 5 or 6 hour game like this, and right at the beginning you're prompted with choices, and it's just conversational choices where everybody's hanging out at camp, and you made a decision that we immediately went, shit, was that the right one? And then 5 hours later we're in a predicament and we go, you know what? If we had said yes instead of no, I bet it would be doing this right now, and everything would be so much easier with our life. But that's part of the fun part is you don't know how your choice and what choice you make will affect what circumstance you're going to have, at least not on your first playthrough.
The old butterfly effect, right?
That's right. And the big thing on this game is it kept coming up as the enemy of my enemy is my friend, which brings all 5 main characters together, even though they have back warring storylines, because there's nothing like some big crazy shit trying to kill you to make you rethink your perspectives on everything. Mm-hmm. But as part of that warring storyline, I think they did get a little ham-fisted and push in some stuff that didn't need to be in here or might have felt a little out of place. I mean, I know there's an ongoing love story in there, and you can choose not to pursue it, because this game's all about choice. Burke, however, chose to pursue it, so right in the middle of people dying left and right, you take a heartfelt moment to turn around and be like, hey, let's talk about us. And you're just like, motherfucker, let's run, you know?
There's no better time than the moment right now to talk about this.
And we did.
You're feeling it.
And we did.
You're feeling it.
Luckily, as the other character, you have the opportunity to tell them, not right now, and try to move on, and it just makes for that awkward hang and a little bit of a relationship struggle a little bit later on that might affect some of your choices and what you think your character should or shouldn't do when it comes to that time.
And because you didn't want to talk about it, I made you drag me the rest of the way, because I'm that type of person.
Yeah, and then I tried everything I could to kill your character, so there's that. It works. I guess it works. It wasn't a pointless love story after all. It drove the narrative.
You tried, but you didn't succeed.
Narratively, also, we don't want to spoil anything. I think the first 3/4 of the game was great. I think it was dead on accurate. It was great down in the tunnels. You're underground. You're dealing with big vampire-like things, as you saw in the trailer. And I won't tell you more than that. But narratively, it was great. And then in the last quarter, I think you said it best. Right when we were experiencing it, you just went, man, they really jumped the shark. And I couldn't agree more.
That's the truth. Yeah, and I will say, it was a twist, I guess you would call it a twist. It did patch the holes in the story that needed to be patched with this question, but yeah, the other games, we were discussing it once we finished it, that the other games just did a better job of not jumping the shark. I mean, I hate to say it, but that's just what it was. They just felt like that is that magic and mystery that's out there still, and then this one you're like, did we run out of ideas? Now, granted, I know I'm jumping ahead, but the next game, what's the name of it? I already forgot.
Devil in Me.
The Devil in Me. That looks like they're getting back to their roots a little bit, and that looks exciting, but I know we're going to have a review for that in due time.
1 year from now, for sure.
This was still a good game, though. If we didn't touch on it earlier, they do have that new camera. The camera did feel a little clunky in some of the areas. You do have these flashlights and these lighters, and sometimes it just felt weird to turn. I know there was one mechanic in the game where we both were touching this stone, and I couldn't touch my stone right. I don't know if I needed to talk to it or buy it a drink, but I couldn't.
And it is great when two characters try to interact with the same object. One just creepily hovers right next to them over their shoulder, and you had picked up an empty binder. All the pages were torn out, and my character was just standing there like, hey, bro, let me get that. And you open it up, clearly see there's no pages, and then I'm just like, I need that. Let me see if I can find something you canned on this empty book. And then you just hand it to me, and my guy looks at it and goes, oh, yeah, the pages are gone. And if that wasn't a great moment that could have been avoided, I don't know what is. But the twist at the end did kind of sour me on the game a little bit. There's good twists, like 1950s dance club, people in the back just yelling, God damn, what a twist! But this wasn't one of those. It was more of a, that's happening now, huh?
We did that.
Yeah.
We went there. So
it made the story a little clunky, and some of the other things throughout it, audio-wise, I think were a little clunky. There was the gunshots that were kind of weak, some poor conversation choices like we touched on. More often than not, though, I think the voice acting was good. Not great, not super memorable, but good. Everybody did a good job. The standout, I think, much like the last two games, is Pip Torrens, who does the curator, kind of the narrator that ties everything together for you. Plays a great role throughout the whole series. The vampires make like a predator-like clicking noise that echoes throughout the chambers when you're underground and all the hallways. And it's real atmospheric and real creepy. And then that one scene where I was in that lake of liquid with the fire, you hear wood break behind you, and then you hear something splashing through the water, and it gets louder, and it gets closer, and it gets your heart rate going, because you're trying to run, but you're like in a dream walking through liquid. You can't move your feet, so you're stepping on that jello, and there's nothing you can do about it. And it just keeps getting closer and closer until it finally culminates. And that was a great moment where I was down there making diamonds in my asshole, and you were up experiencing a totally different story.
Completely different. Had no idea what was going on down there. But
all you heard was screaming. That's right.
It was, the music was good. I mean, it does really add to the suspense and building it. And you'll hear these little early clicks where we were just talking to each other. We're like, is that what I heard? Is that what's really going to happen here? Is this coming? Did I hear that or not? It's fun. And yeah, they did a good job. Like you said, there could have probably been some better sound effects on some of the guns and stuff, but overall, still good.
Yeah,
still good.
Yeah, absolutely. You'd never know if it's a bat off in the distance or something that's about to completely end your game, and it's really good that way. I mean, overall, I'd highly recommend the game. It's probably been my favorite co-op series over the last 3 years, and it's been a staple for us, these past 3 years for sure, after I forced you into the first one with a Friends Pass. There is a pass-the-controller movie night mode where you could play with 5 different people, each one controlling one of the different main characters, or you could play it online co-op just like we did. You make one selection at the beginning who plays one of the 2 kind of prologue characters, and that decides your path throughout the entire game and what characters are assigned to you. I know we finished it this past Sunday and immediately wanted to replay it, certain sections to see what change would affect us and how.
Yep.
So even with 5 to 6 hours of gameplay from start to finish, it does have replayability based on how many choices there are. And at only $30, I think it's a steal.
I'd agree. And if it's something you guys are on the fence about, this is a game. I know we were talking in some of the other reviews that were kind of cheap, but there are some games that are good and you want to pay the money. This is one for me too. If you're on the fence about it though, they probably will have this friend pass that is out there like it is on the other 2 games, and you get one playthrough with a friend, so you can't go back though. But if you guys like it, maybe you pick up the next one, try it out. I'm sure it's going to be coming for this one here, maybe not just off the initial release, but something you can think about down the road.
Yeah, and the other 2, it took 4 to 5 months to come out. I'd expect them to do the same on this one, but I think it's worth picking it up right now, just like we did.
I'd agree. Oh, the last thing, real quick, was we didn't talk about this. The QuickTime events can sneak up on you. Apparently there is a difficulty mode to change that, but, whew, boy, you got to be watching the screen at all times. Keep them eyes peeled.
I mean, I don't want to brag, but I want to say that I nailed all my quick times, minus the one where somebody died. But other than that,
wish there was some stats about that. But okay.
Man, no, the quick time events, they're varied. There's a few different ones you can do where you're pressing the button enough to fill up the circle. There's one where you just got to time it right, and then there's the breasts that came back from the previous games where you got to time it on a line correctly in order not to get seen. I may have failed one of those and almost got thrown in a hole. Luckily, you were there to save me, and I appreciate that, Boo. But that's one nice thing about it, because it is a co-op game. Even if you do mess up on some of them, you have the opportunity to be redeemed by somebody else as long as they make their quick time events. And luckily, we complement each other. I think you messed up a couple that I ended up saving your character, and vice versa. I know it definitely happened.
Well, and you had that one where, and you could talk about it probably a little bit more eloquently than I could, but you were doing the right action, but did your action have negative consequences you didn't know at the time?
Yeah, for sure. I succeeded on these quick time events, and they were giving you some verbal clues about what you were doing, but you don't know whether that was the right thing or not. So I did succeed, but I may have failed because somebody died because of it. Now, whether that saved the other 2 that we were playing as because he would have gave away our position, or I just killed off a character in the series that I didn't mean to kill because I wasn't paying attention to them going, oh, you're suffocating them. But, point is, I didn't die. The character I was playing, did you die?
Well, I did make some dumb choices, but I was feeling really heroic at the time, and I won't disclose what those are. You'll have to play the game, but I was feeling myself, and I went for it, and I had to live with those choices at the end.
And luckily, I think we share the same mindset in a lot of them, where whether we choose to fight or run, I think we made the same choices at the same times, so we worked well together. If you're going in cold or with somebody that doesn't have the same mindset as you, you might have a little bit more difficult of a time trying to survive this game with all your characters. Not saying that we did. I think we lost 3 out of 5. But that's first playthrough. We'll do better next time. That's right.
That's right.
That's right.
With many more to come.
That's right. So that's House of Ashes. If you haven't played any of the Dark Pictures anthologies, you don't have to start with the first.
Right.
You can start with House of Ashes, but I'd recommend picking up the full anthology, all 3 games you can get for $60 in a package right now. House of Ashes by itself is $30. The first 2 games have friends passes. You can sucker somebody in to play with you. It is a damn good time co-op wise.
Yeah, if you're looking for some, and you could probably knock them all out in one weekend if you guys got some time to kill. It's a fun game to play with a buddy, and we've enjoyed the hell out of them. We're definitely sold on these.
Well, speaking of all 3, where do you rank this one in all 3 if somebody's going to pick up all 3?
I do like Man of Medan. It was probably the story and the setting where it was at. I would then probably for me. It's a close second and third. I would probably give them the edge to House of Ash and then Little Hope. But Little Hope, for me, people crap on it, but I liked it. I still enjoyed that game. But
yeah,
Little Hope third.
Yeah, and I'd agree with your ranking. Man of Medan, it wasn't just the first time we experienced it because it played much like Until Dawn or other horror survival games like that. So, yes, it was kind of a new experience. Doing it online co-op, and it was great, but it had more of a psychological thriller aspect to it that we don't want to spoil. Mm-hmm. Whereas I felt Little Hope was slower, much more slower paced and a lot less psychological. You kind of knew what was coming when it was coming. House of Ash did great. You knew what was coming, minus that ending, but it was still atmospheric.
So you didn't. What you're saying is you didn't know that was coming.
Because it shouldn't have. It was a terrible, terrible twist. But I would rate them the same. I would put Man of Medan at number 1, House of Ashes at number 2, and Little Hope at number 3. But I would still recommend playing all of them.
I'd agree with that, 100%.
That's us on Dark Pictures. We'll definitely be back to review the next one. But in the interim, feel free to comment down below on what other games you want us to review. Subscribe to the channel for more, and we'll see you out there.